So when I was 18 years old, I spoke with some missionaries, and the missionaries seemed like amazing people, and they are. They're really great individuals. They were very passionate about the Lord, and they asked me to pray and see if I felt God, and I did. And so they told me that that was the Spirit witnessing to my heart that their church was the true church, and that I needed to join the church and become a Mormon. And I was excited because I finally had found some people that were willing to share the gospel with me, what I thought was the gospel. And so I signed up and poured myself 100% in. There's a lot of things that the Mormon church actually does very right. They take amazing care of their people. They have a compassionate services leader, and when I was on bed rest with one of my kids, they supplied meals to our family. And I think it's kind of how grace is really supposed to work in the real world. So I got involved in every ministry I could. I had worked with the Relief Society and the women's ministry. I had worked in the primary, which is children's ministry, and then I became a restricted ordinance worker through the temple. Towards the end, I signed up to take a seminary class, and it got deeper into the gospel. Now, when the Mormons come to your house, they give you a Book of Mormon, and that talks about, it's basically a story that's written of how maybe Jesus would have come to the United States and witnessed to the people here. But they don't necessarily give you all the other books. And in the seminary class, we dug deeper into the Pearl of Great Price, the Book of Abraham. And as we got into them, they started getting deep into their theology, which led me to remember, I guess, some of the things I had heard as a child, and none of that was in there. And I started asking questions, and they asked me not to do that, especially in a public forum. I was asked to ask my husband the question, and then if they would tell him the answers, and then he could relay that back to me. And it didn't seem right, because if I had the question, more than likely other people had the questions. And so that led me on a journey to find the truth. I would like to say at that point I dove 100% into the Bible, and I think out of really not knowing what to look up. It's a big book. And so I was just like, this is really kind of crazy to me. I started kind of reading bits and pieces. Over that summer, I didn't know where I was going to go, but I did want to distance myself from the Mormon church. My kids wanted to still attend, so I would go and I would sit in the lobby during services. And I remember specifically one Sunday when it was during a general conference, and they had put out a proclamation and a challenge to the church to read the Book of Mormon over that summer. And my son, who was on fire for the church, came running out and was like, "Yay, we're going to do this thing, and you're going to do the challenge. This is so great, Mom, I'm excited." And I said, "Well, I don't feel like God's asking me to read the Book of Mormon." And he was like, "But the prophet said." I said, "I know the prophet said, but I feel like God is saying that he wants me to read the Bible instead." He couldn't believe that I was defying the prophet. I said, "Well, if you want to read a small book like the Book of Mormon, that's okay, but I feel like God's asking me to read a big book." And he was like, "I know how to read big books." And so he decided at that point he was going to read the Bible as well. He had asked me to do a contest with him and see who could read it the fastest. Well, a week and a half into it, he had already blown through Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. And as we were sitting down with him to have him share with us, he started going through the begats. One day I came home from work and he was restless. He was freaking out and wanted to know when my husband would be coming over. He walked in the door, didn't even take off his boots, and Stephen had him come to the desk and he said, "Read this." And Dave read, and it was John 1:1. And he said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." And Stephen was like, "Do you see that?" And Dave said, "Yeah, I see that." And he said, "So the Word was God." And Dave said, "Well, who is the Word?" Stephen said, the Word is Jesus. And he says, "Look at verse 14. and the Word became flesh and dwelt among them. Jesus wasn't a man. Jesus was God in flesh form who died for my sins. So at that point, we left the Mormon Church and began to pursue a Christian walk. I can say without a doubt that God has taken me from a very sloppy, messy mess to what I think He's working into a miracle.
My name is Katrynia, and Jesus changes everything.